lab pe aati hai was such amazing words that, you know, whenever it was the assembly in our schools, we used to read it, but we might not even know the meaning of it. But the best part was that these words made sure that we became the beacon of lights as well. All of these words had a meaning for us. All of these words taught us what life is all about. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the 139th birth anniversary of Allama Iqbal, and he's also known as the ideological father of Pakistan. He's the spiritual father of Pakistan as well. He's the poet of the East. And there's so many things which we would love to discuss with you today, because that's why I said that it is a very important day.
Absolutely.
Quite a lot of people do not know that he did bar as well. Quite a lot of people did not know that he became poet after reading Goethe's poetry. And then quite a lot of people do not know that it was one of his history teachers who actually made sure that he's going to study all of these poets which were out there in Europe. And then it was his history teacher who actually inspired him to go and pursue his studies in Europe as well. There's so many stories we want to share with you guys. He's written quite a lot about Iran. He's written about the revolutionary movement of Afghanistan as well. And then out of 12,000 verses, 7,000 verses were in Persian as well.
Exactly. And with Allama Iqbal's work, it has been translated into multiple languages. People all over the world respect it. People all over the world admire him. And, you know, he, like Shahzad said, he set a standard of certain level of literature, which a lot of people are inspired by today all over the world. And to discuss who he inspired, what it actually means for Pakistan, and how do we actually bring the actual value back to it, because we've sat here every day, you know, every year for the last 3 years, and we've spoken about similar things on the same day. But now let's talk about the practical implications of what Iqbal Day actually means.
And you know what, before you do that as well, there's one more important thing which I would love to share over here. You know, the only reason why we call him the ideological father of Pakistan is that he was the one who had faith in Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and when he became the member of the Muslim League as well, he was the one who brought him back, because he knew that only Muhammad Ali Jinnah can work for the unity of all the Muslims and the Muslim empowerment. And I think this is something which is very important. And yes, we do talk about it every year, but this year, just like, you know, other years as well, it's going to be different pieces of information which you might not have known for years.
Exactly. And the whole point is you know, with Allama Iqbal, what Shahzad has said in his introduction is that he's traveled all over the world. He was a very wealthy man, and that's what it's all about. It's about acquiring knowledge, and it's about getting it out there. And he was, you know, someone to look up to, and we're going to discuss exactly why he was. And we have been joined by Dr. Mubashir Malik, who is a psychiatrist and a Sufi scholar. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Besides Dr. Mubashir Malik, we've been joined by Mr. Khurram Ellahi. He is teaching at the Pakistan Institute of Development Economics. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Iqbal Day, sir. Thank you very much for coming over. Thank you very much for joining us. You've been here as well, and you've been here as well. But today, what we want to discuss is that Iqbal, back then, was one of those people who thought about sustainable societies. And I think this is what brings us closer to him as well, because now in 2016, 14, 15, since the time we have been doing our show, we have been talking quite a lot about society, humanity, and he was the one he thought about the collaborating with both of them.
I think the people remember Iqbal as a poet.
Yeah.
A poet who was the real catalyst for creation of Pakistan. But I think when I look at his personality, his works, I've gone through all his works. I started reading Iqbal when I was in class 6, and I'm still drowned in it. Iqbal was a poet, he was a philosopher, he was a Sufi, he was a psychiatrist, he was a psychoanalyst with a great vision.
Exactly.
And I think there are multiple aspects of his personality, and I don't think we'll have sufficient time to really describe what he was and what his philosophy was.
Exactly, because, you know, if we'll get into, you know, all of those pieces which we say were the notable works, for example, Asrar-e-Khudi, and then, you know, there's so many things which I don't think, Rumuz-e-Bekhudi, and then Payam-e-Mashriq, and then Javed-Nama. I think there are too many things to be discussed. But I think what we need to do is that we need to remember him as a poet and as the ideological
Okay.
father of Pakistan.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, in regards to, he was a poet, obviously we know that, like you said, but he's also a philosopher, he was a psychologist, he was a psychoanalyst, he was, someone who, he came up with the creation, idea of Pakistan and every aspect behind it. So there's a lot more behind it. So how important is it to actually be aware of all his other, elements of his personality and his works?
I think sometimes he is misunderstood.
Right.
He was a staunch believer of God, his existence, and he said something very, very strange. You see, Hadith Qudsi says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I was a hidden treasure and I wanted to be known. So Iqbal puts it in very beautiful words that even God had a desire to be recognized. So that is where his philosophy of Khudi came in,
Exactly.
which is his core issue. Everybody who met in life, Iqbal in life, became his great fan. One great example was Anne-Marie Schmel. She was a German lady. She met Iqbal in Heidelberg when Iqbal was in Heidelberg, Germany. There's an Iqbal chair in Heidelberg, and it's still active and doing
yes.
a great work. You know that.
Yes.
Your grandfather
Was the first.
was the first who went to Iqbal chair,
Yes.
Dr. Ajmal.
Okay.
Because he knew Iqbal and philosophy and everything else.
But very quickly, moving on to Khurram Sahab now. Now, Khurram Sahab, how do you see the importance of this day as well? And, since I might have missed on the very basic information, which I might have, introduced my show with early in the morning, and it was that, ladies and gentlemen, he was born in 1877 in Sialkot, British India. And
But these are pieces that everyone
anyone
in
can
Pakistan-
still, I think we should reiterate them, I think, when we were observing the day as
I
well.
went for a lecture recently to Sialkot and they asked me for the fee. So I said that the only fee I'm going to charge is take me to the Iqbal Manzil. Okay. I walked in. It's a very simple home with normal rooms, normal chairs. And there a person sat and he wrote some work like Reconstruction of Religious Thoughts in Islam, where he said, in order to know universe, I can use 3 major sciences. Number 1 is matter. Number 2 is my interaction with the matter. Oh, biology walked in. He said physics, you can never run away from that. Then came biology. And then he said, my interaction, the interaction of my mind, which creates meaningfulness, as Dr. Saab said. And then he said, it is certainly impossible to miss psychology in order to encompass universe in totality. He was the first Muslim scholar of the 19th century who was bringing the idea of theory of everything into the Muslim minds, which was later on taken by Dr. Ali Shariati alone and no one else. He said, stop putting barriers in the knowledge. If you open up Reconstruction, it starts with Greek history, it moves into psychoanalysis, it jumps out into the theory of praying, it moves on and it keeps on going. Wonderful thing which we just heard and all our viewers were looking, Lab pe aati hai dua ban ke tamanna meri. And when we were playing, Dr. was singing it along. Yeah. That means he heard that in his assembly. Then you were singing it along. I think you're a bit older than me too. And I was singing that too. And my son must be singing that at home too. And Iqbal quotes that in Reconstruction. Dr. Iqbal said, sorry, in straight reflection, philosophy ages. It gets old. No matter how accurate Plato was, you just know him as a hero today. You don't know him as a perfect Scientological person who can be quoted in the modern physics. And he said, poetry, it rejuvenates. It flowers every morning. Homer is alive. Iliad is alive. Odyssey is still much better than the work of Vasisha done in Pakistan today. Done by the Milton, done by the Dante. And then Iqbal, he was a great fan of Khusro. He was a great fan of Rumi. And then Iqbal said, just look at this one verse of Khusro which he wrote for his Murshid. Moinuddin, it's a very wonderful verse.
Sure, go ahead, sir.
Jagu Jayaro. The complexity of whole universe he brought in 2 words. And this is where Iqbal said that I'm gonna be a philosopher, but my expression would always be poetry. Jagu Jayaro.
Jagat Ujjaya.
Jagat, make the world meaningful, lightful. And then Iqbal said, I'm not going to write in prose. I'm going to write in poetry. So my philosophy may not die of existentialism, of age. My philosophy may not get zaif, may not get older.
Okay, that's
So the
very
bookshelf was obviously greater, and the cause
Interesting.
was obviously greater as well. But he was a staunch believer of spirituality as well.
I think people have some misconception. Iqbal was a great believer of God and a true devotee and ashik of Sarkar-e-Do-Alam Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he describes it very beautifully, the love he had for Prophet. दहर में इसमें मोहम्मद से उजाला कर दे.
Wow, wow.
Yani he thought that, and he said at one time very clearly that you may not believe in God, but I'm sure you all believe in Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So I think it was a strange mixture of his intense conviction about religion. But what he talked about man was that when God created man, he imparted man or woman for that matter.
Yeah. Let's not be gender biased here.
All godly qualities.
Yeah.
And he was a great believer. He said if we wake up, there was and we develop inner restlessness. That's why in Javed Nama you said, he said, सकून न ढूंढ, सकून तो है मौत का पैगाम, तो जिंदगी के लिए इज़्तिराब पैदा कर और खुदा तुझे किसी तूफान से आशना कर दे कि तेरे बहर की मौजों में इज़्तिराब नहीं.
And he wrote it for his son as well.
Yes.
If I'm not wrong, his
But
name
it
is
didn't
Jawad.
work.
And he turned out to be the Justice of Supreme Court as well.
He was so much in love with sorrow. Iqbal wrote in Straight Reflection, God gave mankind pain.
Yes.
Because God only wanted mankind to see everything. And when he writes about Prophet Muhammad in Reconstruction, chapter number 2, and he said a wonderful thing that Pir of Gango said, it was the wisdom of Muhammad who came back down after the Miraj. And Pir of Gango said, if I would have gone upstairs just like Musa, who was crying for Lantarani, no one would have came back looking at the divinity. It was the height and the stature of Prophet Muhammad that he was looking at the divinity, and yet he was ready to come back to the mortal, mundane world, full of errors and mistakes.
Very nice.
So Iqbal, coming up as a Muslim scholar, who else is the Muslim scholar? Can anyone quote me in 19th or 20th century? There's no one.
No,
There's
but
no
other
big
than
name.
quoting, there's one thing which I wanted to, have an emphasis on, and that was that, back then, being such a visionary, that you brought Muhammad Ali Jinnah back to the party.
He wrote a letter.
Knowing that, he'll be the only person working for Muslim empowerment and the unity of all the Muslims. Imagine that.
Okay, so my question is, as well on top of Shahzad, is that in that time, he knew the importance of having someone to speak up for the minorities. It was a certain area of the society that was being targeted that may not have known everything. So how important is it now to know these things that we're highlighting? The fact that he wrote to Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he was a Muslim scholar, he was a philosopher, he was a poet.
Yes.
And then there is a reason we call him Mufakkir-e-Pakistan.
Yes.
So yeah, let's talk about this
Yes.
now.
He
Tell
is
us
the one
about
who
this.
developed the concept of Islami Mumlikat.
Right.
And that is why when he goes on to talk about Khudi ka sirre neha, la ilaha illallah. Khudi hai tege fughan, la ilaha illallah. So he brought this concept. And mind you, we talk about Iqbal, the world over. I've been all over the world. He is known as Iqbal-e-Hindi.
And he's known as Iqbal Lahori as well.
Iqbal Lahori as well.
Yeah.
But Iqbal-e-Hindi is a more popular name. I have been across the world. There are so many roads and monuments dedicated to Iqbal.
Yes.
Turkey, Spain, and Europe. I think he is the one who is known more for creation of Pakistan.
Spiritual father of the nation anyway.
That's right.
Okay,
But
but
then,
hold on, wait.
yeah,
So
go ahead.
my question was that within Pakistan, though, that emphasis, you know, the whole world recognizes his contribution literally to, you know, to the literature world, to the philosophical world, to the psychology world, to everything. But within Pakistan, you know, that kind of excitement or that fervor behind it is not as prevalent as it should be.
I don't agree with you.
You don't? Please tell us how.
I think people are in love, and there is, you don't come across anyone who says that Iqbal's role was. Iqbal is overwhelming.
But Maha's point is somehow right, sir, in that context. I mean, mashallah, you have read so much about him, or I have dedicated my life to him. There's a couplet in Arghumane Hijaz, and I used to hold my head and read it. It's in Urdu, and we can translate it later. Tu agar apni khudi na khota, zunari bargasa na hota, Hegel ka sadaf bhi gohar se khali hai, iska mehkam bhi sab khayali. He quoted world's two biggest philosophers, Bergson and Hegel, in just 2 verses. And no one bothered to know about Bergson. No one bothered to know that Iqbal met Bergson face on face when he was deciphering time.
Okay.
And Iqbal left this question for all Muslim students. Whenever you're done with the universe, when we have our own nation, decipher time, decipher space. And when we are teaching our students very simple poetic work of Iqbal, they can never unravel the philosophies hidden behind it, that which greater minds, as Shahzad said, he was reading Goethe, he was reading Dante, and this is where the gap comes. Our love is very, I mean, it appears to be a good love, but it appears very shallow, that we are not embracing Iqbal with the right spirit, with the right fervor with which Iqbal wanted us to know.
All right, so then very quickly, sir, we have to go for a break, but then, you
We'll
know,
come back
when we are going to come back from the break, ladies and gentlemen, all we need to know is whether we are at the same level of the intellect. I don't think so. Let's take a break. Good morning.
Welcome back, everyone. And today we are observing Iqbal Day, and we have a very short amount of time left, and we have a lot to discuss. So I wanted to jump straight into the question with you, Dr. Bashir. The whole concept of Insan-e-Kamil and Mard-e-Momin, and its comparison to Nietzsche's Superman, correct?
Yes, that's right.
So tell us about this, because it's very significant.
I think Iqbal went much beyond Nietzsche. Also, Nietzsche is very popular. He gave the concept of Superman. But Iqbal's Mard-e-Momin is a much wider phenomena.
Right.
And he gave a remarkable concept of Mard-e-Momin. He awoke us all up. And in fact, as Shahzad was saying, he described our role as Muslims, as followers of Prophet, that he in fact described in beautiful words that what is the potential of a Mard-e-Momin. The difference between Muslim and Mard-e-Momin is Muslim believes in Allah and Momin believes in what Allah says. So the true sense of awakeness, the concept of working with struggle, continuously persisting and persevering. Superman of Nietzsche is something which is very worldly, but this is both for Deen and for the world.
Okay. So there's the spiritual aspect and the physical aspect.
The concept of this started with Rumi, then came Ibn Arabi, and I remember your grandfather was a great fan of Ibn Arabi. We had several hours discussions on this, and then came Iqbal.
Okay.
And Iqbal completed the message.
Okay.
Nietzsche's Superman was a lot about power. He was quite Darwinistic. He said that there was a false thing in the society, the power touched it and it became truthful. This was Nietzsche phenomena, that the power is truth, divinity is power. The weaker things does not have the right. They will only talk about morality. They will bring you down to aesthetics because they cannot cherish the power. But Iqbal went ahead. He understood the idea of Ishmus, Barzakh, which he called, and then he completed his ideology of Superman. The Ubermensch of Iqbal is known as Iqbal's Mard-e-Momin, which he completely quoted in Masjid-e-Qurtuba, the magnum opus of Iqbal, and he said, "Haath hai Allah ka, banda-e-momin ka haath, yadullah fawki aydihim, haath hai Allah ka banda-e-momin ka haath, ghalib kar afrikar kushakar saaz, khaki aur noori nihad, banda-e-maula sifat, har do jahan se ghani iska dil-e beniyaz, iski umeeden kaleel." He has very less wishes. Iske maqasid jaleel, and he endeavors nothing less than a parallel universe. Iski ada dil fareeb, iski nigah dil nawaz. But when he looks at someone, he just melts them down with all the grandeur and power he's having. And then he said, masterpiece, the whole universe knowledge in one verse. Aql ki manzil hai wo, the knowledge felt completeness when it is touched by Mard-e-Momin, which Hazrat Wasif Ali Wasif said that truth is nothing but the words of a saint.
And he truly had an understanding of almost all walks of life as well.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him the poet of the East. I mean, we need to agree to this as well. But now...
Sufism, you have...
I want to come over there. But, you know, one very important point, sir, was that, you know, he was the one who came up again and again with the ideas of society, human society development. And then he was the one who was definitely influenced by the West because of the poets which he followed, but he abhorred the idea of Western society because they were too materialistic. And that's what makes us humans, right? When we are selfless. And that's where Sufism and spirituality comes in.
I think that's very important. His relationship with Rumi, he actually originally drove his strength from Rumi, and then, as I told you, Ibn Arabi came. And Iqbal completed that message. And it was Iqbal who said about Rumi, कि मौलवी हरगिज न शुद्ध मौलाए रूम, that Maulana Rumi was a Maulvi, a Maulana, but he did not become Maulai Rum till he did not become Ghulam of Shams Tabriz. So the relationship and the love and romance with Rumi had great influence on Iqbal's life.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, but you know, that's why I raised this point as well. Development of human society.
Yeah.
That's what we need now.
And that is what he showed actually.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, that's exactly the point that we also discussed earlier before the break, is that there is that slight disconnect, because if we were all so connected to Iqbal, then Pakistan and the society would be perfect.
Yeah.
However, we are not perfect and we are striving to become better. How do we now get back on track?
Yeah, how do we bridge these intellects?
Iqbal has very beautifully described the phenomena of Saturnology, Saturn. He said that man is much more powerful than Saturn. So resist and the Saturn's satanic sayings or influence of that, and has put very beautifully some verses which I may recite. And he said that Saturn can be resisted, neighbor and associate and companion. Everything is he. In the beggar's coarse frock and in the king's silk, everything is he. In the crowd of separation and then in the loneliness of collectedness, by God, everything is he, and by God, everything is he. Sometimes we call thee wine, sometimes goblet. Sometimes we call Jami thee corn, and sometimes snare. There is no letter save the wave name on the tablet of the world. Now, by which name should we call thee? He describes beautifully that we have been given and we have inherited godly traits.
And he went so ahead that he said कि फरिश्ता कहने से मुझको मेरी तहकीर होती है. When he went ahead even from satanism, he went even to angels. मैं मस्जूद मलाइक हूँ, मुझे इंसान रहने दो. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. He said, Iqbal brought mankind back to his right stature, higher than angels. And he said, don't call me angel. When people, we just get so inspired by the Western, hey, you're my angel. And Iqbal said, no, the angel bowed me. And the one who did not bow to mankind is called as the Satan.
That is
and Iqbal's last message was,
Yes.
Kare jahan daraz hai, ab mera intezar.
बाग़े बहिश्त से मुझे हुक्म सफर दिया था क्यों?
Kare jahan daraz hai. That's the last
अब मेरा
message.
इंतजार.
See, imagine that all of these teachings have always been existing, and they were always a part of our society, within the libraries as well. We always had scholars like you. But where we fail is that we fail where it is all about understanding what his message was.
Iqbal is not
very
being
quickly,
transmitted to the
since
younger
we're running
generation.
out of time, very quickly, how do you think the future generations can probably hold on to all of these learnings?
I think in our educational system, I remember we were taught Iqbal much more in the childhood. Now Iqbal is almost disappearing from textbooks in schools.
Yeah. Okay.
So unless you put Iqbal's philosophy in the hard disk of children right from the childhood, you will not be able to achieve the benefits
Absolutely.
of this treasure that he has left behind us to be inspired from.
Great.
And Iqbal just concluded that in a very simple thing. गुज़र जा अकल से आगे कि ये नूर चिराग राह है मंजिल नहीं है. Please don't be brain, be the light.
Wonderful. Thank
This is
you
what
so
Iqbal
much
said.
for your time. It was really very fascinating. And at the end of the day, it's about understanding, and it's also about implementation of the ideas and the way of life. And you know, we have a great country here. We have a lot of potential,
Yeah.
you know, and we all need to work together. I think that's what it means.
And you know, I would bring it in
And
a nutshell
tolerance.
by just saying that knowledge is power, and blind following of alien cultures will probably destroy your future generations, and you might have gone through that already.
One final.
So
West and best is not synonymous, and east and beast is not synonymous.
Absolutely. Great. No, we've actually completely run out of time. So with that, do log on to our Facebook fan
Which
page,
is with the name of World This Morning,
our Twitter page,
World This Morning without a G,
our Daily Motion and YouTube page.
World This Morning once again.
And the repeat is
5
at?
past 11 p.m.
Have a wonderful day. We will see you bright and early tomorrow.
Look after yourselves.